Hello, everyone. How are you doing? And welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show, where I interview educators and entrepreneurs on leveling up. Each episode, I zoom in someone who's dope, and we just sit back and have a conversation on what it means to live your best life. Today's guest is Delores Brown. In the tech game, been doing it international, and just recently, through our discussion, found out her roots are in Mississippi, where I am. And today we're going to be talking about a little bit of tech, a little bit of business, a little bit of purpose. And I wanted to have her on the show because she's doing, some awesome things, has a wide background, and doing, discovery on her. I found out she was a chemist. I'm like, okay, like where did that come from? So I wanted to just have her on and sort of share some gems, and hopefully you, after hearing this podcast, will be motivated to take that first step in becoming whatever you were meant to be in your life. So for those who will be watching on YouTube in the future or listening on SoundCloud or iTunes, Delores, will you please introduce yourself?
Hi, well, like you so eloquently put, I have a very wide background. My name is Delores Brown. I am a previous chemist and an international fashion consultant and a creative director. But my main profession is in the supply chain management. So I have tons of experience in a lot of different fields. I am so glad that you have me on the show. I'm extremely excited. I heard about you through Minda Harts. I'm somebody that I truly look up to. But yeah, I am just interested in always learning, and I've been working with a lot of other moms in the entrepreneurial space, kind of getting them pumped up, like, hey, you can do this. And then I just kind of want to spread my message a little bit more. I realize that my background is relatively unique, but a lot of people can connect to one of the pinpoints of the places I've been.
Awesome. And Minda is doing it big time, people. Secure the seat. The podcast is hot. Make sure you check it out. And I'll put a link so you can go check it out, because she has been on the podcast and she's killing it. And I can't wait for her book.
I was about to say her book's coming. I can't wait.
Can't wait for that. So what drew you to co-found Agbara Life? And what were some of the experiences that led you to where you are now?
So I'll start with Agbara Life. I kind of fell into Agbara Life. I ran into somebody that I had known for about 12 years, but we hadn't really connected since high school. And we were just talking about background, and I had a bag, and he was like, oh yeah, I'm making bags like that. And he's an electrical engineer, and he knew me as a fashion consultant, or as a chemist, sorry. So I told him I had moved into fashion consulting. He's like, so we just kind of started talking about the bags and kind of fell into the design of the bag. But then once he realized that my background was so broad, where I was dealing with brand management, and also some other like social media metrics and also design, he brought me on as co-founder. So it was one of those just kind of happenstance, happened to be in the right place, right time. It worked out amazingly, and I actually was able to grow a lot of my skills through Agbara. Once you are starting a company, you have to fill every single spot. There's no, oh, let me go ask somebody else to do this. No. If you need to design a bag, it's not, hey, let me go hire a designer. It's, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to study, I'm going to work with fashion consultants, I'm going to figure this out. But as far as my background, I, again, was a chemist, went to the University of Illinois, ILL, and came out as a programmer for a Mathematica software company. We were starting a chemistry division, didn't go there, it didn't work out, and moved to China. Wow. Yeah, so I lived in China, and I had actually met my previous husband right before I moved to China, went there, then moved to Italy, and then Turkey. We got married, and then that's why I started my company. I realized that a lot of the women that I was around were trying to find ways to still make money and still kind of remain in the professional field with being remote. We move around all the time. There's no saying if you're going to be in one place one day or one day the next. And I wanted to find a way to kind of secure my seat, but stay relevant. And also it's in my blood to keep working and to start companies. It was my second company founded. So I was kind of going on that moved to about 4 other countries in Eastern Europe. Kept my company going, came back to the States, and realized that I could do a lot more for the community and a lot more for myself. Kind of getting out of the brand management, moving back into supply chain management, and was starting Agbara Life, or coming on board with Agbara Life.
Wow.
It's a crazy background. I've been a couple of different lives in one 30-year period.
Wow. International people.
Yes. And if you haven't had the chance to live abroad, please take it. Don't be scared. No matter where you go, even if they don't speak English, we have Google's too free. Just Google it works out. I mean, we moved to Turkey, and I was like, oh, they'll speak English in Ankara, and got there and was like, hey, how are you? They're like, oh, spaghetti. It's like, oh, okay. Like, this isn't going to work. But I learned the language. My oldest daughter, her first language is Turkish. You assimilate. So if you have that chance, please go. You learn so much, so much by going abroad and living abroad.
All right, people. Gem number 1 dropped. So I'm just trying to sort of wrap my mind around the bag, because there are a lot of ideas that people think of. You know, Jessica Matthews has that soccer ball that provides light in Africa with kinetic energy, and I see a lot of kids now that, you know, they rock the backpack, and I'm kind of like, oh, okay, you know, I'm 44, so I don't get it. But when you're thinking about, I'm going to create this product and I'm going to tie it in with tech, what was the pain point behind creating the company, and what do you hope to accomplish?
So I guess with the backpack, traveling with backpacks was so much easier for both me and as well as the other founders, because you have to have your hands free. With me, I have to grab 2 kids, and I'm grabbing passports and bags and all those other things. Some other founders, they had a lot of stuff. And so we needed to create a product that fit everybody's needs. And we realized that a lot of the bags in the tech space did not focus or weren't geared towards the African American community. They weren't geared towards the millennials. They were either really kind of dorky looking, or they just had like a really small battery in it where it would charge your phone one time. So it was almost pointless. So to be able to put everything that we needed, the space, the electronics, had that benefit component behind it, where we benefit, or we try to bridge a technology gap between the education systems and the kind of socioeconomically challenged areas. So to put all of that together and make sure that we're not only providing this amazing product that's going to work and that can help people, but also make sure that it's practical. It doesn't make sense to carry a bag that's 50 pounds. So you're going to have batteries that are about 30, 40 pounds. You don't want to carry something like that around, and you don't want to carry something ugly. So that was kind of one of the biggest pain points, was pulling everything that we needed. The other pain point I would say is pulling together a team. We are all very strong-minded people, to say the least, and very strong about our opinions. And with us being completely different, it can be challenging when there's an opportunity. We all say our piece. There's 3 co-founders, and there's times where I'm like, there's no way we should do this. And if they're both like, no, we're going to do this, I either have to push my point really hard, or I'll just have to find a way to see their point. But that was definitely a pain point in the beginning.
So with your experience, you know, in tech, business, and brand management, please speak to the importance of people not putting their career, their advancement in the hands of someone else.
That is a interesting question. Because I've always been so independent. Even when it came to asking for career advice, I was always not just necessarily scared, but I'm like, I can figure this out on my own. And I do think that was something that I failed on, definitely failed on. I should have been able to ask somebody. So I'm trying to think of the best way to answer this question.
Just be honest.
I think that it's extremely important to take ownership of why you want to do something. And once you own that, if someone tells you, no, you're not going to want to do this. I've had plenty of people, when I tell them what I want to do in the next 5 years, they're like, that doesn't make sense. I'm like, it makes sense to me. And I see how it's all going to come together. Just because you don't see my path, I'm asking you about this one certain point. And I have to let their words, I have to listen to them, but also understand that they don't see my full picture. So just with anybody else, if you know your full picture, and even if you don't, if you see a certain part of it, take ownership of it, reach out for advice, take the parts that you need, but then also be strong enough to understand that you may be wrong. When I first moved out to San Francisco, my idea was I'm going to become this great or even larger fashion consultant and take over the Bay Area. And I got here and someone's like, the Bay Area does not care about fashion. I was like, oh, well, they're the third largest retailer. They were like, Delores, we told you before you moved here. And I was like, oh no, I get it. And then I'm here about fashion. Not remotely. So, and then taking ownership of the fact that I was wrong. So again, I think it's a mix of what's in your hands, what's in somebody else's hands, what you take from their hands, but mainly just taking ownership for yourself, if that makes sense.
It does. And I want to throw this out there to you because you spoke about how you just jumped up and you went overseas and you did all this traveling, and then you said, hey, I'm going to do this with fashion. I'm going to the Bay Area. Where does your lack of fear come from? And how does someone overcome that fear when in the back of their mind, they're hearing these voices, they're having these doubts, they're having people tell them, don't go for that promotion, or don't get that extra degree, or don't do this or don't do that. And with a lot of people, they just don't do it because that's what they hear. How did you not have any fear to just go, I'm just going to go globe trotting. I'm just going to do this thing. Jump into that. Like, where did that come from? And how do people sort of, if they have those fears, sort of exercise those demons out to where they can actually accomplish what they want to?
That's a very good question. I wouldn't say that I'm fearless because I get scared. I mean, even when it comes to answering the phone sometimes, when it's a call that I don't know how it's going to go, there's this anxiety behind it. Like, maybe I can just say, oh, I'm sick, I can't answer the phone. It's little things like that kind of get to me more than going someplace else. But I think a large part of it comes from there's nothing that I haven't gotten through yet, as cliche as that sounds. I went from a high school where I was bullied intensively for my academics, and I tried to dumb myself down. And it was the worst thing that I ever did because it affected me all the way through going through college, as far as grade point averages and just even a relationship with my parents. So realizing that there was nothing that I haven't gotten through, I didn't really think twice when the opportunity came to move to China, outside of the fact that I was hungry, because I didn't think about the food options. And that's something that I had to get through. I mean, I got there thinking, oh, it's going to be Chinese food. I didn't research it. I'm like, oh, it's China. Everybody goes to China. There's millions of people. I'm fine. And I got there and my cousin asked for fried rice and they were just like, what? He was like, oh, can I have shrimp fried rice? I'm like, yeah, shrimp fried rice. And they're just like, no, that's not what we do here. So I just took that experience, and when we moved to the next country, just knew like, hey, I'm going to dive straight in. I'm going to be okay. I may not be where I thought I was going to be, but I'm going to be okay. And I think if a lot of people take that into consideration, that you're going to be okay, you may not like it, change your perspective. Right now, I'm going through kind of a limbo. When I first kind of entered this time period, I was really upset, and it didn't help me get through it. And I had to kind of look back at myself after I was talking to all these other people, like, hey, you just have to change your perspective. And I'm sitting here at home like, oh, I hate the place I'm in. Like, I need to take my own advice. And it was change your perspective. You find out that you're going to be transferred to a new city you've never been to, or you don't think you're going to like. Go. We found out we were going to Utah. I was like, oh, who goes to Utah? And you get there, and it was the most beautiful place I had ever been. So I think if more people take that approach and stop listen to other people, but if they've never been there and they aren't you, which is everybody, take their things as a little salt on the shoulder and keep going.
Okay. So when you hear the word ownership, what comes to mind, and what are the rules of success you live by?
When I come to ownership, I think of my mind. Again, like I've mentioned before, no one knows what's going on here except me. I can express it as many different ways as possible, but no one can truly understand. So when it comes to running my own company, or the companies that I plan on starting in the future, or the people that I'm helping, I own how I feel. I own where I want the company to go. And I think a lot of other people that are in the entrepreneurial space, that's something that they can't take from you. The fact that it's your company, where you want it to go. They can't say, hey, your company can't go there. Like, it's not your company to decide that. I think I don't know, when I think of ownership, that's what comes to mind. And I think one of the traits that kind of plays a large part, or the rules, is stubbornness. My parents will probably be joyous when they hear this. I know that I am stubborn. I acknowledge the fact that I am stubborn in certain respects. I am a great team leader. I'm a collaborative leader. I love working with people. But when it comes to my passions, I am stubborn. I was the kid that went to chess camp, and no one could tell me that chess camp wasn't cool. Even though I look back, like, that was interesting. I went to chess camp and coding camp, pre-med camp. Sorry. That's just one of those rules that I don't want to give up. I won't give up the fact that I enjoy what I enjoy. Outside of that, it's kind of taking the whole fear thing. Fears are meant to be overcome. Again, another cliche, but it's true life. If there's something that you're fearing or something that you're not comfortable with, all it takes is for you to get through it that one time, and then you've done it already. You can't be scared of it.
And chess is cool.
Yes, I enjoy it still. Chess and checkers and coding. That's like they're like, oh, what do you do for fun? I'm like, oh, well, I do user design. I'm a fashion consultant that loves user design and loves to go on a scooter and skateboard.
Wow.
Kind of all over the place.
Yeah. Never been on a scooter and haven't been on a skateboard in about 30 something years.
Scooting. So I'm doing another kind of tangent. I am doing a car-free year. So we've been walking everywhere, and I had to bring one of my daughter's scooters to her. So I rode her scooter because I was like, I don't want to carry this. And it's honestly was the most fun going down a hill and just letting the air just kind of fly through you. I was like, oh, I got to get an adult scooter. Now I see other adults on their scooter. They have the motorized ones, but still, it kind of brings back that joyous kid life that we used to enjoy.
Okay. I just think
Yeah, no, I had to jump off because I missed the break. So it's little, she's young. I missed the break, so I had to jump off going downhill, but I made it. I did it. I didn't hurt myself too bad. Sore for a couple of days, but it's so much fun.
All right. So when you hear, well, that was other questions, but what are some of the lessons you've learned along the way that have propelled you forward that you continue to use?
Oh, asking for help. I've always been that person that people come to, and I love it. From middle school and on, if somebody's going through something, they can always come to me. And now, thankfully, it's more geared towards either something relationship-wise, or because I've gone through some crazy situations, or business-wise, which is my favorite, to help somebody get started on either their career or their own company. And sorry. I was about to sneeze.
No problem.
Sorry about that. And I realized that I was helping all these people, but there was times where I needed help, but I was afraid to ask for help because I didn't want to seem, well, there was one part where I didn't want to seem like I needed help. I'm like, hey, I'm helping all these people. How can I be the person that needs help? And then the other thing was, if I can get through it myself, and this is a huge weakness of mine that I'm still working on, if I can get through something myself, there's no reason. I always felt that, why would I ask for help for it? If I can go learn something by researching, why do I need to ask somebody for help? And once I finally start to get over that, I mean, a whole new world opened for me. When I reached out to someone like, hey, I'm having the worst trouble with like advancing in this one position. And I asked somebody and they're like, oh, well, hey, I've been here before, do XYZ. And within a week, the situation was resolved. And I had been stressing over it for about 6 months. I call my dad almost every day. We talk for about an hour. I'm just like running things by him and like, hey, Dad, what do you think about this situation? Or I'll send him something. Hey, what do you think about this? And it's something that I never was really good at because I was typically the person people came to. I think just adding that is something that I will continue to get better on because it's still very new for me. It's something that I didn't start doing till a couple months ago.
Wow. So what made you start to ask for help?
That's a very good question. What made me I just think I got to a point where I didn't know what else to do. And there are certain things that you can't research. I mean, or if you do research, you get all these different like opinions and you don't know the person that it's coming from. And actually Minda was one of the people that I didn't reach out and say, hey, I need help. But I don't remember how the conversation started. Oh, she was on another podcast and I heard her and I was like, hey, your message really spoke out to me. And she responded, and just kind of her being so open helped me be open with her. And she's kind of one of those first people that if something's going on, she's the first person that comes to mind. And that's kind of how I have the relationship with a couple other people where I may not say, hey, how do I get through this situation? But, hey, how are you? And then they respond, oh, I'm great. How are you? And you're like, okay, mind down. It's helped tremendously. And then now that I'm finally getting to meet more people, most of my friends are international. A lot of the other people I've connected with are not in my area. I don't know a lot of people in my area. So now being a little bit more open on social media about my experiences, I'm connecting with more people. We've connected. It's something that it's easier to do now that I've done it the first time.
So now I want to throw this out there to you because you mentioned Minda and other people that you are connecting and growing with. How important is it for people to create that network that they can learn from, that they can grow with, that they can look at what they're doing and become inspired by, and possibly even find people who can hold them accountable for the dreams that they say they have?
That's a big one. Holding somebody accountable. That is huge. Because the first time you say, hey, I'm going to hit this goal and you don't do it, if it's just you, it doesn't, unless you're like super hard on yourself, you're like, oh, it's okay, I can push it back. But if somebody's waiting on you to complete that goal and they hit you like, hey, you said you were going to get this done. Oh, that's a completely different level. But I'm learning it's extremely important, not just necessarily for accountability or for help, but just that network, just the camaraderie. I was involved with Mandela and Founders Gym, and seeing that, and actually in one of like the hardest times I was going through one of the hardest periods of my life to date while I was in the cohort. Being around other people that were going through some of the things that were similar but related to entrepreneurship or even outside of it. I mean, I've developed some lasting friendships from it. And the people that have reached out to me because they saw me involved with that. I have somebody that I even offered like, hey, if you're coming up to the Bay and you need a place to stay for a while, my place is open because I understand if I had that network to go move back overseas, because that's where I want to be, and I had somebody there, now I have the network where there's certain places where I can go reach out to somebody. And it just feels good knowing that you're not in it alone. I thankfully had some successes, but just thinking back, like how far I could have gone, even though it's not a healthy thing to do, to think how far I could have gone, how much more I could have done had I networked before 2018. It's extremely important.
So you're in the tech space. You just mentioned Mandela,
and
there's people out there like Sequoia, and Jessica has her thing going on, and Morgan, and shout out to Morgan for getting that big BC number.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And they talk about, we hear a lot about these numbers that say that there's a huge lack of diversity in these tech companies. From your experiences, the conversations you've had, the other Black women that you are meeting, are you seeing things moving in a more positive direction? Is there a sign that Black women are, or women of color in general, are claiming their space?
I mean, definitely just within the past year, I've noted, I don't know if it's because of the sphere that I'm in now or being involved with Agbara or being out here in the Bay a little bit more, seeing the amount of women that are just succeeding and saying, hey, look, no, this is what I'm doing. Like, you're going to recognize me in this space instead of waiting for somebody else to acknowledge them. I'm seeing it just, I don't know, sorry. It's exciting. Like seeing what Morgan did is huge, and seeing how far Mandela's gotten and the people that she's having join her cohort are just mind-blowing. And Arlen, I mean, I was just looking at Entrepreneur magazine, and she was right there, and find out she's going to be speaking at Startup Grind, and just seeing her next to like Siebel and these names that you've known for so long. And just in the past year, how they've blown up. I mean, Arlen's story itself is from being homeless not that long ago, and now she's speaking and taking her mom, my mommy's girl, but taking her mom to all these different places. Just seeing that just shows me, and that's just what we see. We're not seeing all the stuff that goes on behind closed doors, or these women that are starting their companies, or these women who have been working for so long, but just don't have that kind of publicity because they don't really talk about it. It's definitely growing. Just open your magazine. You'll see these faces that you weren't seeing before. It's amazing. It's exciting.
Wow. I love it because, because of social media and particularly Twitter, I'm able to see what's going on and learn about these things, because I don't work in tech like you do. I'm in instructional technology, so it's educational technology, but it's still a different sphere. And I don't live in the Bay. I am in Mississippi. So to be exposed to what's going on, for me, it's just awesome.
Yeah. Social media is, like, it was funny. Arlen was speaking at one of the conferences that I was in. And when I saw her, I forgot that I had not met her before. We communicated briefly, just like she liked a status or something that I had posted about her. And so when I met her, it was my instinct to be like, hey. And like, as I was doing, I was like, oh, I don't know you. Like, oh, hi. I follow you on Twitter. But you create these great bonds, and just the people that I've connected with just through social media. Again, Minda, she was on somebody's podcast that I saw posted someplace else. And just somehow now she's someone that I reach out to. We talk almost weekly. Social media is amazing. When you use it the right way, social media is amazing.
Excellent. So there are a lot of educators I know. They're writing books, they're presenting at conferences, they're podcasting and killing it in their classrooms, but they downplay their accomplishments. And I see that as keeping them from reaching that next level. Why should people actually brag about themselves?
Oh, and I'm the person, I have never been one to brag. I actually forgot about a lot of the stuff I did until what the original founder of Agbara was talking. He wrote my bio for me. And I was just like, oh yeah. Oh, okay. I forgot I did these things. And it hinders you, because if you don't talk about it, generally no one's going to find out about it unless you're on some like large scale, like with Morgan reaching that insane seed round. That was great. Or series round. But when you have these small, I hate calling them small, but when you have these small wins, if you don't talk about them, no one's going to know about them. And it's going to be harder to get that next big win if they don't hear about the couple steps you took. When you're first starting a business, you can't just put a website out there and expect everybody to go out there. If you start publicizing it and you have that your city newspaper put something, or your city magazine put something out there, if you then put that out there on social media, people are going to say, oh, hey, wait, she's being published, or he's being published here. I want to get in on this. And then next thing you know, you're in Black Enterprise, and then you're an entrepreneur, and then you're in Forbes. Like, you keep going. And there's a Chanel. She owns Rose Gold, and she will be the first. She lets you know about everything on social media, from personal to professional, to all of her wins, her losses, everything. And because of that, she's getting so much. I mean, just in the 6 months that I've known her, her company's grown a lot, and her personal presence has grown incredibly. Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't have happened. I don't think it would have happened had she not put herself out there. Like, hey, I just won this. We just won this round for funding, or we just won this competition, or hey, I got accepted to compete. This is why you should listen to me. I mean, she's somebody that people should go listen to, because it's a perfect way to brag about your accomplishments, but then also understand your downfalls and how you can apply it to your upcomings. Yeah, upbringings.
The come up.
Yeah. There we go. I don't know where I was going with that.
It's all right.
Falling up the stairs. I've done that before.
Look, I've had a great conversation.
Yeah, me too. I'm so glad we finally got to connect. I mean, obviously we follow each other on social media, but to be able to sit face to face when we're thousands of miles apart and to talk about dope things. I love helping people in the tech sphere. I love introducing people into the tech world, because there's so many avenues. Like, you're in education tech, there's so many avenues. People don't realize how healthcare connects with the tech world, or how fashion and tech connect. So anything to talk about that and kind of nerd out a little bit.
Awesome. So before we go, what is the best piece of advice that you've received from another entrepreneur? And what is your advice to educators who are looking to monetize their talents?
So first, I think the best advice is actually from my father, who is an entrepreneur. I come from a line of entrepreneurs, and he's always told me nothing is as good or as bad as it seems, which people are like, oh, that's kind of grim. But when you look at something that's failed, it may seem like the end of the world if you don't get that round of funding, or if your business isn't successful. Businesses fail all the time, and it's okay, because you can learn from it. You get so many experiences from the failure, so many more experiences from the failure than you do the wins. And then when you have those wins, yeah, they're great, but you keep going. Mm-hmm. If you just say, hey, yeah, I won this prize, and you stop, well, then you're now about to experience a whole bunch of downfalls, because you're stagnant. And that's something that I take into everything that I do, whether it's with family life, whether it's with business. It's, yeah, this is great. Keep going. Take the positive, keep going. And if it fails, then okay, yeah, that sucks. Keep going. And I would actually give that advice to anybody that's starting a company, anybody that's entering the tech space, anybody that's entering any sphere that's something that they haven't succeeded in yet. Be proud of your accomplishments, whether it's something small. Like, if you don't know how to use Excel, because everybody says you have to be a master at Excel, you make your first pivot table, you better celebrate that pivot table. That's exciting. But don't stop, because you're going to need to do a VLOOKUP. And if you're putting together a pitch deck and you send it to somebody to review, and they're like, hey, let me tell you why this sucks, or why this is horrible, take it, understand it, and realize, okay, now I can make it better, so then you can make it a win. So I would definitely say that to everybody. If I could print it someplace, I would.
Like, why is my phone going off? Okay.
It's bedtime.
I'm like, what? I don't even remember setting this timer. Wow. Okay, that caught me off guard. Yeah, this is awesome. Wow.
I really appreciate you, like I said, having me on board, coming on, listening, and then just the people. I was looking at all the people that you've had on before, and to even be included in that group it meant a lot. When I saw your first note, I was like, oh no, I'm dreaming. There's no way. But thankfully it all connected, and I was like, okay. And then I jumped on at the wrong time. I'm like, oh, did I get the day wrong? Like in 6 different time zones. I'm so confused, but I'm very grateful. And I love the fact that you're pulling this together. We need more people talking about what's going on. That's another way to make people get to where they're trying to get.
Well, thank you very much for that. Alhamdulillah. I take no credit for this. I always tell people I'm just a man with Zoom.
Okay.
I enjoy having these conversations because it really gets me excited about it. And then my goal with my audience, who are educators, is to really get them understanding what they bring to the table and to go get that money, because we have a problem with giving away lesson plans and ideas. And when you have these ed tech publications, they'll reach out to you and they'll say, hey, would you write this article for us? And you get excited. And I was there. I had that excitement filled myself. What? You're asking me? Yes, I'll write something for you. And then you get to a point, you go, why am I writing for free when I can write for my own blog for free? So now when you ask Will to write, a check comes, or you're not getting Will's writing. That's how I roll now.
Yeah.
And so I'm just wanting to get my colleagues into the mindset of go get your money and know your worth and not get caught up in the nobility of being an educator and not understanding that you can make the impact and the income.
Oh, that know your worth is a big one. That's a conversation for another day. That could go on for another hour. But yeah, that is what you're doing is great. And like you said, just a man with Zoom. Zoom is a great tool. Everybody has Zoom. Not everybody has the know-it-all or even the desire to do what you're doing. So that's amazing.
Well, thank you very much. I so appreciate it. Now, people, you know how I do this. The video cast will be going up on YouTube. I need you to subscribe, leave your comments. The podcast will be going up on SoundCloud and iTunes. I need you to follow, subscribe, leave some ratings, people. Hook your boy up because I'm trying to get Oprah on the show. And I want her to know that I'm doing it big around here, people. Also, first time ever on my podcast, and someone had to remind me to do this myself. I talk about entrepreneurship, but I have never talked about my own company's website. So folks, if you want to know what I'm doing in the consulting game, go to www.tdg.education, and I'll put a link on it, and you'll see the consulting that my wife and I are doing, the Deyamport group. As always, people, invest in you, EDU, peace.